Okay, this is just a quick follow-up video. My plans did not work out that great. Turns out the pump is really quite loud. It appears to be constantly sucking air, and it took me a little bit to figure it out, but eventually I kind of thought that it was maybe because it's not the highest point in the system. Which I think is absolutely the case. The highest point in the system for the water is this radiator here and this fitting right here. So you can see right now, maybe see that that tube is empty. It's because all the water has drained down. When it's pumping, it's pumped up fine, but there is a constant stream of air bubbles going into my reservoir in the pump. So I think it's where the pump is the lower point in the system versus the higher point in the system. It's not fully pumping out all the air, so I'm getting a constant stream of air bubbles. That in turn makes the pump very, very loud and very, very annoying. I had the machine booted and running yesterday, and I dealt with it for probably about a half hour, did some tests on a temperature test. A good solid 30 degrees Celsius lower on the processor and the video card both, even under load, under prime 95 and fur mark. Everything was a solid 30-40 degrees Celsius lower, which is really, really amazing. But in that 30 minutes of testing, it gave me a migraine. Could not stand the sound of that pump. And it's going to constantly sound like that, because there will always be air trapped in the system. So this plan is abandoned for the moment. Not really abandoned, I'm just going to set it aside and re-engineer. So what I'm going to do is the rearmost radiator is going to come out, and it's actually going to go underneath the unit. I currently have this 2x120 radiator. I have another one in the other side of it, and then there's a 1x120 underneath it in the center. That 1x120 is going to be removed and replaced by this guy, so it's going to involve a lot of surgery. That being the case, I'm probably going to abandon this chassis. This was the original Packard Bell chassis, and I cut it up to make everything fit. Holes for the power supply to fit, radiators, everything like that. I'm probably going to scrap it and start over with aluminum angles and just make it to the dimensions I need it to be right from the get-go. I'm probably going to take the shell and glue it all together into one piece to make it a little bit easier to deal with. Currently you can see still the bottom of the original shell attaches to the chassis as it did originally from the factory. I'm going to get rid of that and just glue it all together into one single piece. Let's see. You can see everything is really, really tightly packed in here. I did have problems with my riser PCIe card failing. The cable failed. So I threw in a second one. It does not go down, allow the motherboard to go down all the way, because the chipset heatsink right there is hitting the adapter. So there's a lot of little engineering things like that that pop up when you're kind of going from zero here. So far so good, but I'm hoping to correct a whole lot of those things once I redo the chassis. Let's see if I can get a picture of the bottom. Right here you can see the fans, and that little 120 there is going to be cut out and replaced. That kind of messes with me because I have the hard drive sitting right there, and that's going to have to be moved. But once I have these fans and this radiator out, I'll have a couple inches right here. So the plan is to move the pump back here, probably the hard drive right here. I may scrap everything and go with a server type power supply, which is different dimensions than a standard PC's supply. They're usually a little bit shorter and a little bit longer, so I might be able to tuck that up into the chassis a little bit. My plan is also to lower this guy down a little bit. I made this grill work to allow hot air to come out while the machine's running, But I left a lot of room there so I could stick fans underneath the radiators if I wanted to have a push-pull system. But it looks like it's unnecessary, so I am going to take all of that out and redo it and bring it down a little bit lower. I may use the same grill work, I may go with something else. I'm not really sure yet. But in comparison, here is a stock Packard Bell corner case. This is what they look like originally. This one hasn't been changed or modified in any way. And so that's what this guy originally looked like, and that's what it was originally going to go back to. Other than it's set up a little bit higher. And I had made some fancy end caps with vents in them, which were originally these guys. And this gives you a good idea of how big this computer is. Well, how small it is actually. That's a CD drive right there. You can see it takes up a good, honest 1/3 of the length. And it's the same dimensions on this side. So it means a small computer.